When Microsoft bought Double Fine back in 2019, the gaming world kind of gasped. I mean, Double Fine was the indie dev of indie devs, the quirky creative studio making whatever popped into Tim Schafer's head. They made games that stood out because they were weird, funny and full of personality. So the question was, what happens when the most creative indie studio gets bought by one of the biggest corporations in gaming? Well, 4 years after the release of Psychonauts 2, Double Fine are back with their first new game under Microsoft called Keeper. On the surface, it looks as charming and strange as ever, but if you dig deeper, has that creative spark survived the corporate world? Let's find out in my Keeper Steam review. The game starts off with this flock of weird alien-looking birds flying away from a dark cloud. All of them get swallowed up except for one. That bird escapes and hides on a broken down lighthouse. Then, in true Double Fine fashion, the lighthouse suddenly comes to life, sprouts crab-like legs made of rebar and concrete, and becomes your playable character. You play as this giant, stumbling lighthouse with a bird friend called Twig, trying to climb a mountain to push back an evil plague called the Wither. You do that by shining your light on it. It's basically a light versus darkness, nature versus corruption story. It's simple, but it works. What's cool is that Keeper has no dialogue at all. The story is told entirely through animation and character expression. Going in, that sounded amazing, but after finishing the game, it didn't hit as hard as I expected. The story is just too simple for the no-word things to really matter. I did like the Keeper and Twig, they're endearing in a very weird way, but the game never made me feel emotionally attached to them. They'd fall off cliffs or get separated all the time, but 5 minutes later, they're fine again. It's hard to feel tension when the game just resets everything so quickly. Now here's where things get a bit rough. For about the first half of the game, there's just not really much to do. You're walking this big, clunky lighthouse from point A to point B, shining your lights on obstacles to make them disappear. There are puzzles, but they are so basic they feel like filler. They're just there to give you something to do. It's a kind of walking simulator experience that gives walking sims a bad name. And to make it worse, it's often hard to tell where you can actually walk. I kept bumping into parts of the environment thinking there was a way forward when there wasn't. Honestly, the opening hour or two had me this close to refunding the game on Steam. But because it was Double Fine, I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did, because things definitely get better. For me, the turning point was around the Clockwork Village. Here the game introduces a cool time-skipping mechanic that actually makes the puzzles interesting. They're still easy, but you can feel the creativity kicking in again. From there, Keeper really starts to feel like a game. New mechanics start popping up, and even though they don't all fit together perfectly, they are at least fun. My favourite section, without spoiling too much, involves a weird candy floss-like substance that changes how you move around the world. Honestly, Double Fine should just make an entire game based around that mechanic. It was so much fun. So yeah, as the old football cliche goes, this game is a game of two halves. The first half, boring and frustrating, even if it is gorgeous to look at, and the second half, much more fun, but kind of a random mix of ideas that don't always feel connected. Still, I'd rather play something ambitious and messy than something safe and forgettable, and Keeper definitely swings for the fences. Now, even though I have issues with the gameplay, Keeper is an absolutely stunning game. The visuals are a mix of surrealist painting and crusty crab-like creatures. The landscapes look hand-painted, and the creatures move with this awkward charm, and the whole world feels alive. I love just watching the critters do their things, picking algae off of rocks, scuttling around, or covering their eyes when I accidentally shone my light on them. It made me wish Double Fine would make a creature collection game someday. Then you've got these ruined concrete structures poking out of the organic world, like scars from a forgotten civilizations. It's got that dreamlike what happened here mystery without ever spelling it out, and I love that. The fixed camera angle forces you to stop and admire the view, which sometimes gets annoying during gameplay, but honestly I didn't mind. Keeper knows it's beautiful and wants you to see it. The music and sound design are brilliant too. The soundtrack uses custom-made instruments to sound alien and haunting, and the creatures make these eerie, organic noises that make the whole world feel alive. It's generally one of the most immersive soundscapes I've heard in a while. Alright, let's talk about performance. I played Keeper on my PC and my Steam Deck. On the deck, it ran at very low settings at around 50 FPS, but the art style looked blurry and flat. So blurry it was basically unplayable. Bumping it up to medium looked better, but tanked the frame rate to the mid-20s. To be fair, the game isn't officially optimised for the Steam Deck yet, so that's partly on me for playing it there. On my laptop it ran fine at medium, though bumping it to high made my fans sound like a jet was taking off. So if you've got an Xbox Series S or X or a very good PC, honestly just play it there. Save yourself the tweaking headache on more moderate PCs or the Steam Deck. So should you buy Keeper? Right now it's $29.99, and at that price I really can't recommend it. I'm a Double Fine fan and love seeing what weird ideas they come up with, but unless you're already into their style, I'd say wait for a sale or try it on Game Pass. The first few hours feel like a slow, frustrating walking sim. The second half redeems it a bit with some fun mechanics, but it still feels like a patchwork of cool ideas that don't quite stick together. The story is fine, nothing groundbreaking, and the characters are charming but underdeveloped. What really saves Keeper is its art direction. It's a visual masterpiece, a game you want to screenshot every few minutes, but it's also a reminder that great art can't completely make up for clunky gameplay. So yeah, Keeper is okay, it's not bad, not great. It's weird, beautiful, and sometimes brilliant, but not always fun to actively play. If you've got Game Pass and you're in the mood for something different, give it a go. Otherwise, this isn't one you need to rush to add to your Game of the Year list. Thank you so much for watching my Keeper review. Let me know if you've picked the game or if you plan to pick it up in the comments below.